Hi Dasha. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. So my name is Laura Mason. If you don't know me, I think everyone here so far does know me. And today we're going to be focusing on the area of rewiring you for abundance. So today's call is a taster of an upcoming course that I'm running this weekend, live in London and online. And the course is about rewiring trauma with the infrastructure of joy, calmness, abundance, and peace. So today we're going to focus in on trauma and the impact that that has on your ability to receive wealth, abundance, and hold on to it. So what is the traumas you guys are dealing with? Let me know. Pop it into the chat. And whilst you do that, I'm just going to explain a little bit about how we're going to run the webinar just for those who are going to come later or even catch the replay. Someone says money related. Yeah, well, it's going to impact your ability to create money and generate it. But the thing that I'm looking to know is what is the actual trauma or traumas that you've experienced. So we're going to use the alchemized method to do the clearing today. So I'm going to talk a bit about trauma, how it impacts you, your capacity to receive abundance, see what is going on specifically for you. And I'm also going to be tuning in. I'm going to be using the alchemized method to do the clearing. So with alchemized, we're connecting into source energy, divine source, which is the energy of pure creation, light that has created everything in the universe and beyond. There is different words we can use to address this energy, such as the creator, source, divinity. You can use whatever word you feel comfortable with. And I think everyone knows how to connect here. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about alchemize. So with alchemize, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting into source energy. And when we're connected to source energy, we're able to use this energy to change our reality. So today we're focusing on the area of abundance and looking at traumatic patterns and belief systems, which might be yours and they might be ancestral, and how that is impacting your ability to generate, receive, and hold on to abundance and money. So a download is really where we bring in new information into your body, your mind, your conscious, your subconscious, your spirit, that can create awareness, that can create healing. You know, when we've had trauma, when our ancestors have had trauma and it's on the line, a lot of the time what happens is we don't develop or hold on to certain positive feelings that are required to really hold on to abundance and to really live a happy life. So with trauma, one of the responses to it is you become hypervigilant. And that is you're constantly on alert, you're constantly on guard, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. You're waiting for bad things to happen. You know, sometimes you're left with this sense of dread that there's just something coming around the corner. Anyone, can you identify with that? So usually what that's about is you're wired with past trauma and you're holding on to that. And the trauma creates the belief. So that sense of something lurking around the corner, that comes from when bad things did happen. We're still holding on to that. And it's created an expectation for the future. So then beliefs that we might form are, you know, bad things happen, it's not safe, I'm not safe, the world is dangerous. When you have those types of belief systems going on, and when your body and your mind is wired in that way as a consequence of trauma, it's kind of difficult to create on a larger scale. Often what we do is we live in survival mode. And our whole reality is contracted. So we keep, not consciously, our wiring, our belief systems, etc. It keeps our reality small. And what I mean by that is you're really in survival mode. And one of the responses to trauma can be to shut yourself down. And the purpose for that is you shut yourself down in an attempt to keep yourself safe. Because you will have learned that receiving is not positive. And also you're often quite disconnected from your feelings, or at least some of the time. That's because what you will have learned is to feel is not good, because the predominant feeling where there is traumatic experience, particularly where it happens when we're young and it's repetitive, is going to be feeling unsafe, feeling not secure. So then that will cause you to disconnect from your feelings, because you don't want to feel, because to feel means feeling bad things. At least that is the case when you have this wiring. So the purpose of what we're doing here is to change the wiring so that you can expand your life and expand your reality. So one of the responses is going to be to shut yourself down to receiving. What did you all learn receiving is based on your childhood experience? So if someone doesn't have a lot of trauma and then they experience trauma in adulthood, it's not going to, well, if they experience, say, a significant trauma in adulthood, it's not going to have the same impact as if you have the childhood trauma, because the childhood trauma is where we get wired. A lot of the wiring happens. So you can generally cope and recover in a different way. So how many of you have actually had childhood trauma, and what do you identify as childhood trauma? Let me know. Sexual. Okay. So based on that, what did you learn receiving is? It hurts in my stomach to think about that. So sometimes what happens when we get some kind of visceral pain in the stomach, it's because there's something there that is stored there that perhaps we don't have the memory to in the way we would normally recall memory. So you can put your hand on your stomach and ask, what is this about? And let me know. Okay, so another comment is neglect, emotional abuse. So what did the neglect look like? What did the emotional abuse look like? And financial abuse. Those three things, give me those 3 points if you can. And then what did you conclude about receiving based on the neglect, the emotional abuse, financial abuse? Another comment is emotional abuse and manipulation. So what did the emotional abuse and manipulation look like? So I concluded it's not safe to feel, and I did dissociate. So it's not safe to feel, okay? And then a consequence of the trauma was you learn to dissociate. The dissociation is a way to disconnect. So what that means is you put the bad things into compartments in your mind so that you can cope and you can go on with life. Yet what you're left with is the symptoms of the trauma. Because a lot of time where you're dealing with certain abuses, it can be emotional abuse as well, you are left with the symptoms, but you may not have all the memory because you dissociate the memory. You like put it into a box, basically. But then you're often left with bouts of depression, helplessness, hopelessness. Sometimes you'll feel it and you don't know where it's coming from. Something has been activated and you're recalling or even having a flashback but without the actual memory in the way that you would recall it. So I'm going to just name a few things, because a lot of people will have the experience of emotional abuse, but they don't recognize it. So I'm going to read your comments first, and then we're going to talk about some ancestral stuff. Okay, so I felt helpless, probably was. I got hurt, which is terrifying to me. Okay, so do you know what happened? So receiving is a trick, a way for others to take from me without me realizing it. Okay, so then what decision did you make about receiving? And how does that impact you now? Financial, taking my gifts, belongings, and money away suddenly without explanation, apology, or amend. Okay, so then what was the conclusion you came to based on that? So let me know. Okay, so neglect can be neglecting a child's needs. That can be their emotional needs, ignoring them, dismissing them, putting them down, not providing adequate care for them, not providing food for them. Emotional abuse can be a parent manipulating the child to get what they want. You know, another piece that goes into that is where there is this role reversal. So the child takes on the role of taking care of the parent, perhaps emotionally or even financially at a certain age, listens to their problems. So when that occurs, there can be a lot of weight put on the child. The child doesn't get to know who they are. They don't get to know what they feel, because they are so intertwined with the parent's emotional world and reality. There's no space for them to be in touch with what they want and be able to actually express it. So then how does that affect you in adulthood, where you might find yourself in codependent relationships? You might find that you still have these relationships with one or both of your parents or other people in your life. If you have this with one of your parents still, that's going to cause problems in your other relationships, because you're not really fully there. You're not really present. You might find your mind is always elsewhere, worrying about them. It can be, putting you down. When you do something good, they put you down. They dismiss you. It can be name calling. It can be, done in a way that is not verbally communicated. So it can be withdrawing, love, attention, care. So everything is conditional. And the message can be in that, well, you get love and approval and admiration, perhaps, and reward if you do X, Y, and Z. So then part of what can be created there, depending on the child's personality, is people pleasing. People pleasing is a trauma response. It's a way to avoid conflict and fear. It's part of the flight response. So when we experience trauma, there's different ways we can respond. We can fight, we can disconnect, we can flee, flee, or we can dissociate. Small children often learn to dissociate where bad things are happening because they can't fight and they can't run. Or even if they try, if they're big enough, it's probably not going to work. So usually what happens is they learn to dissociate. In the womb, up until about 2 years of age, our brain cells are developing. There's about 1 million developing every minute. So what happens in the womb and what happens in those early 2 years is going to wire us, our body and our brain, for the rest of our life, but it can be changed with work. So if as a small child there was chaos, there was violence, there was fighting, whatever was going on, or you were just left when you needed care, you were left to cry, whatever it was, you may learn to dissociate. So then in adulthood, what you learn is you're not present, or something is too much or too overwhelming, you go somewhere else. So there are different forms of neglect and emotional abuse that people often don't recognize. You can be dealing with a demanding parent who does not allow you really to have your own life, who places guilt on you or shames you. Again, they're all forms of control. So I'm just coming back to the comments. I learned not to get attached, prefer not to have, receive, rather than going through heartbreak. People steal from me. Okay, so that's a belief. People steal from me. You guys can muscle test these if you want and let me know if they're there. So I learned not to get attached. And I think that might be because there's such a disappointment there and an expectation that you're not going to get what is yours or what you deserve. So you can muscle test that perhaps too. Someone says it feels like my right leg is blocking receiving, probably block kicking it away. So then you have to look at why is that? If you were to close your eyes and ask your mind, but why? And see what is the first thing that comes up. I concluded that I owe, I'm in debt, and I need to give back. I have to pay off with my energy, my life, my time, my money, and I cannot have things for myself. So these are all beliefs that you can have. I'm indebted to whoever it is that you believe you're indebted to. You know, underneath a lot of what you guys are saying is going to be a lot of powerlessness, a lot of helplessness. Okay, so then I want to just talk a bit about ancestral trauma. So the things that our ancestors go through also impact us. So think now about, you know, traumas that perhaps your mother, your father, and or your ancestors went through. What are they? If you can write that in the chat. So when there is a repetitive pattern on the family line for, say, at least 3 generations, what happens is it changes the wiring. It changes the cells. It changes the way the body functions. So then that stress impacts you and it gets handed down to you. If your mother was stressed while you were in the womb, that is going to affect how you're wired and it's going to set you up for stress. It's going to lower your capacity to deal with stress in the now. Trauma lowers your capacity to deal with stress. It overwhelms you. So part of what we also do, as I mentioned earlier, as a response to trauma, we shut everything out. So we're not just shutting the bad out, we're shutting the good out. We can also develop very rigid boundaries or no boundaries. Both of those things are not going to be good for the creation of abundance and wealth. When there is no boundary, you're going to probably just give everything away. That is also probably part of the flight response because you feel like you have no choice and there's underlying programs and traumas inside that probably say I'm powerless. So one of the ways that you try to gain power is to give the person what they want. The person may not be a threat in the now, but you all these things are wired into you. They become the operating system for your life. So it can be part of what you may have learned is if I comply, then they're going to leave me alone. So it's a clever strategy to survive, but in the now, it's probably not working. Then it can go the other way. You don't let people in. You're afraid of connection. Your boundaries are really rigid, so it's like shutters. But again, that's going to block your ability to receive. Okay, I'm going to come right to the ancestral trauma in a minute. I'm going to just quickly talk about the healing statement because I went off on a bit of a tangent. So with the healing statement is a statement when said, it directs source energy to find programs, patterns, beliefs, energy, emotions, traumas, whatever needs to be cleared, and it just clears them out. It clears them on different levels. So I'm going to quickly name the statement. It's cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, transmute from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So when we're clearing a belief, a pattern, etc., sometimes it just needs to be cancelled. Sometimes something needs to be resolved for healing to occur. So if there is past abuse or neglect, whether it's ancestral, handed down, or it's yours, the energy is often still alive within you. And you're often on some level still operating from that place. So resolution needs to happen. Like completing the energy, harmonizing the energy, bringing in the insights, the awareness, and doing some clearing in order for it to be healed. Sometimes something needs to be just transformed, transmuted. Whatever needs to be done, source energies, divine intelligence will know and will do it. It's done from the source point, which means the very first point of creation. Trauma is often repetitive, particularly where it's on the family line. So it gets handed down and things go around and around and around again and again and again. So you can have multiple different things which are quite similar. So we go back to the source, we identify it, we clear it, and then we clear all the other things that are similar and connected. All levels of your being means that we're clearing your own life experience here in the now, from the point of conception. We're also working on an ancestral level. We're working on your bloodline. We're offering this to your family, and we're also working on past life levels as well. Sometimes the mind is going to think that it serves a purpose to hold on to trauma and the beliefs associated with it. Maybe at one point it did, but usually it's not here now in adulthood. So anyone have any idea of why your mind might believe it serves a purpose to hold on to trauma? Think of one trauma you've had or your ancestors, and why would you or they believe it serves a purpose? I'm going to come back to that. So basically what it does is it finds all the ways the mind believes it serves a purpose to hold on to something, and it brings in truth and clears that out. Clears out the defenses associated with it. And that's what AWS stands for. And precisely means the healing is done in a really precise way for you. Okay, so someone says keeping them safe. Okay, that makes sense. And keeping them growing and learning. Is there a specific thing that you have in mind that is associated with that? If so, please let me know. And then I'll comment on it. Because they don't know any better. Okay. There may be some other things then they're gaining out of holding on to that. So you could actually ask that question and see what comes through. It can be as simple as someone experiences abuse and they hold on to the energy of the abuse, they hold on to the beliefs because they believe if I let it go, I forget. And if I forget, it's going to happen again, which isn't true. So then within that, probably what they're wanting to do, it ties in with the way that they have learned to survive. So there could be a lot of compliance there. So if I remember them, I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good in their eyes. Hi, Faiza. Welcome. I'm going to be good in their eyes. And then I'm going to be okay. But it's a distortion. It's not the truth. So it just needs to be updated. Okay, so I'm going to quickly guide you into the meditation, and then I'm going to start the clearing. AWS is about all the ways your mind believes it serves a purpose when in fact it doesn't anymore. So that clears that out. Sometimes a bit more questioning is needed, but in general, it cleans a lot out. Okay. So I'm going to come back to the ancestral traumas now in a minute, and we're going to do some clearing on that. And then I'm going to go back and do some more work on what we talked about. So I'd like you to just close your eyes and follow my guide. So take a nice deep breath in and breathe out. Breathe in and out. I want you to just put your focus on your heart space as you continue to take deep breaths in and out. Become aware of a white light, which is source's light in your heart space. And it begins to grow. It becomes one with your heart, or your lungs, I should say. Becomes one with your bones, your organs, and your blood. Becomes one with your skin, your hair, and your energy field. And you become aware of like 4 pillars of light in each corner of the building that you're in. This is source's light and it fills up the building. Put your focus back on your core and you notice from your core out beyond your energy field, there's a column of light and it goes all the way up to source. And then you just step into this column of light just above your head and you begin to travel up. And you're just going up higher and higher until you reach this really bright light. Okay, from this space, I'd like you to just ask that any energy that is not me, any feelings, thoughts, ideas, projections, negativity, anything blocking my abundance, my ability to create it, I revoke it, I recant, I reclaim, I rescind, I renounce, I denounce, I cancel, I resolve, I dissolve, I transform, I transmute from the source point on all levels of my being, AWS precisely. And I ask that you show me your perspective and truth on the traumas that may be associated with my own life, that may be ancestral, that is blocking my ability to create, receive, generate, and hold on to abundance. And I ask that you bring in your perspective and truth on how to change it with ease. And as many blocks that can go now, I revoke, I recant, I reclaim, I rescind, I renounce, I denounce, I cancel, I resolve, I dissolve, I transform, I transmute from the source point on all levels of my being, AWS precisely. And then just stay present with it, and you might see things shifting from you. You might feel, you might know. However you perceive it is fine. And then whenever you're ready, what I'd like you to do is when you're connected to source, you can ask questions. And what you'll find is you'll get insights, awarenesses come through. They might come through feeling, knowing, image, or in some other way. So I'd just like you to ask, what is the core trauma that I need to work on today that is going to begin to shift my capacity to receive and generate abundance? So you're looking for what is that core trauma, and please show me how that has impacted my ability to receive abundance. And just stay present and see what comes through. Whenever you're ready, just pop it in the chat for me. So I'm looking at some of the comments from earlier, which is about the ancestral trauma. It's war and communism, sexual trauma and alcoholism. Okay. For those of you who came later, what trauma did your ancestors or parents go through? Because those things get wired into us and they impact us on a physical level, a psychological level. They can cause us to shut down our ability or minimize our ability to receive abundance. So a few people are saying war trauma, experiencing labor camps, genocide on the ancestor side, and it impacts ability to receive from people. Okay, I'm going to do a quick demo, which will just be about 10 minutes. Sarka, would you like to be the demo? A few people are saying war trauma, actually.
Yeah, hi Laura. Yes, of course. Thank you.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what they went through.
I just saw a mass grave, and it was actually surprising because I'm not Jewish, or so I was surprised to see that. Yeah, that's it. Lots of people being murdered in one big grave.
Okay, and they were your ancestors who experienced that?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so what happened before that?
Okay. I'm just asking what happened before that.
Uh-huh.
There was lots of like turmoil, killing, invasion, injustice.
Okay,
Yeah,
and what was that about?
betrayal probably. Oh, it feels like it was about religion.
Okay, can you ask a little bit more?
Uh-huh. Um, it, yeah, it's just the people were believe in a different God. Um, the general beliefs that society was operating from. It's just totally different beliefs, different values. One party didn't consider the other people, they didn't see them as people because they just didn't have the same values, they lived differently. Yeah.
Are you saying that they were hurt, terrorized, and killed because of their religion?
Religion, different beliefs. Yeah, it feels a religion, but now it seems like just different beliefs, including religion, including religious beliefs. They just
Okay,
had
so
totally different values, totally different way of life.
do you know what kinds of beliefs or values they have?
Um, oh, it seems like I'm not quite sure, but it's it's they didn't want to confront, but the other party wanted them to change their beliefs, and they didn't want to change it. Oh my God. Yeah. Actually now I'm getting like what happened in the history,
Hmm.
and but I don't think I will be able to describe it. Okay, what values they have? If I ask this question, they lived more simple life. They didn't want this one big government. That there was basically the group of people that there was Middle East and Europe. They were
Okay,
like some sort of empire, and the empire was just growing and growing and growing. Invading um,
okay,
different countries and so on. And this small group of people didn't want to comply. They didn't want to be governed by those
okay.
other people.
So then, if you were to put yourself in their shoes, what
Hmm.
message might that have sent them?
Um, what message send them? You mean the situation they
Uh
were
huh.
in?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right. That they are not protected. Their God, their source is not protecting them. They are not safe to be who they are. They are not safe to live the way
Okay.
they live. Their values are wrong. They are wrong. Um,
Okay. So
um,
then, okay. So let me ask a question. So if they're not protected, their God does not protect them. It's not safe to be who they are. They're not allowed to have their own values and their own beliefs. What did they do in an attempt to survive?
hmm, you know what? It seems to me they did they. Seems like some of them made they were so peaceful. Actually, they lived in such a peace. They didn't even protect. They didn't even attempt to. There was some of them try to protect themselves, they run. I think I just see running and panic. But in a
Okay.
way, they felt helpless in a way. That was very new. It was very
Okay.
new.
So the ones who didn't run, what did they do to survive?
Uh, yeah, okay. So I'm just asking, see that? Oh, they prayed.
Uh-huh.
They were praying. And
Did,
in a way, they hid a little bit. Yeah, they were hiding. And if I should, they were praying. They didn't even, they were just praying.
so what did they change themselves or at least on the outside?
What do you mean? Like if they
Well, if
changed?
they were being threatened with death and
Mm.
terrorized and invasion, and they were trying to impose beliefs, ways, a kind of order, and you're in that type of situation, in
Mm-hmm.
order to protect yourself, do you
Ah, okay. Yeah,
pretend?
I understand.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think they spoke the same language. I don't think they didn't even sort of, I don't know. So I see some people, they were completely a little bit like so oblivious, like they didn't realize the impact of what was really going on. At first, it took them a long time, so it was
Okay.
too late. And then some other people, they were just fighting. I don't see this solution that, this option. It seems like it wasn't even on a table. It wasn't even considered. Like maybe they're either they were too proud. Why did
Okay, so they
let
fought.
me ask? Yeah,
So they
I
fought.
see
And what
men
were they
fighting,
fighting?
but women, no.
What were they
Mhm.
fighting for?
For their right to be.
Okay. So muscle test, I have to fight for my right to be.
Mhm. Okay. Yes, no. I have to fight for my right to be. Yes,
I have to fight for my own will.
I have to fight for my own will. Yes,
I have to fight for my own identity.
I have to fight for my own identity. Yes,
And I have to comply to
I
survive.
have to. Oh, it sounds like yes, probably. I have to fight for. Oh, sorry, would you repeat it? I have to fight
I
to
have to
comply.
comply. I
Uh,
have
I
to
have
comply.
I have to comply. Yes,
Yeah. All right. So shall we start to change this?
that would be lovely. Yes, please.
Okay, good. So let's just go and show you, your ancestors, your bloodline, the truth about this, giving you sources, truth, and perspective, and releasing all the things in the way of that. Let's revoke, recount, reclaim, rescind, renounce, because resolve, dissolve. Choose for choose to from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So if you asked a question, how does that impact you in the now? What comes through?
Um, well, receiving, but also I see it was playing up in my childhood a little bit or a
Right.
lot.
Well,
So it
sometimes
gets
what
triggered.
happens is if that something like that occurs,
Oh,
however many
mhm,
generations back, then the people who, for example, comply, they adopt those belief systems and
mhm,
then they teach them to their children.
mhm,
So let's just start to give you truth on all of that and release, cancel, resolve, dissolve, truth, voice, it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS. So let's find every experience that all of you have gone through in this lifetime, any other time, place, on the bloodline, where you were taught that you needed to comply. And let's start to unlock all the beliefs, the patterns, the fears. Let's revoke it, recount, reclaim, rescind, renounce, cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose void, choose it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So let's just start to move out as much as we can from the point of creation on the bloodline and in your own experience where you became wired to live in fear.
mhm.
And let's just start to dissolve that. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose void, choose it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So all of the ways that your ancestors and you have mimicked this, and all of the ways that you mimicked, adopted these beliefs, ideas, ways, and complied as a way to survive. Let's just give you sources, perspective, and truth on what is possible now and what is available now. And let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose, voice, it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
let's show you and your ancestors sources, truth, and perspective of when to fight. Because sometimes it might be necessary to fight for something in certain situations. But where we've had to fight all the time, what we're going to do is we're going to find ourselves needing to fight all the time. And we get
Mm,
overwhelmed because it impacts our nervous system.
mm,
So giving you truth and perspective on that and starting to remove that and bringing
Yes.
in calm to your body, your brain, your nervous system, bringing in the feeling of calm, showing you that you can be calm, safe, secure, grow, thrive without having to comply, without needing to follow the rules of anybody else, including everything from back there, and releasing all things in the way of that. Let's revoke, recount, reclaim, rescind, renounce, denounce, cancel, resolve, dissolve. Trace 420 from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Let's show you one of the things I did want to mention earlier is one impact that it can have on us, which slows down or blocks our capacity to receive, is we lose our faith in God, in source. And you had said earlier, they really were feeling not protected by their God. So let's just give you sources, perspective, and truth on that. Give you sources, perspective, and truth on source, on why these things happen. Let's send healing there. Let's bring in faith, what it is to have faith. And for your ancestors in you, restore to the degree that we can, the maximum level, your faith in source. Bring in what it is to be protected, that you deserve protection, why you deserve protection, and clear out all patterns, feelings, thoughts not in alignment with that. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose, zero from the source point on all levels of your being, AWSIC. So I'm wondering if one of the beliefs that you may have is, if I do not comply, I will die, based on what you've described here.
I would not be surprised if I have it. Okay, let me muscle test that. So if I don't comply, I will die. Yes.
Okay. So can you see or feel the experience that created that belief?
Yeah, mm, I see my dad.
Okay. And what is
Mhm.
it about that?
Uh, well, yeah, he was a little bit abusive.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So what is
I
the
don't
thing that is popping up? Yeah.
um what is popping up? I just see him coming to me, and I don't know if he was threatening me to beat me or if he did beat me. My sister, I mean, I know that he did beat me,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously, well, not obviously, I know you mentioned it at the beginning. I don't recall it. I
Okay.
just know it from my sister because she told me that my dad was beating me up and that I was screaming. I don't recall it at all.
Okay.
I just remember being threatened.
Okay. So part of what happens when we put things into compartments is the communication with the neurons.
Mm.
They don't communicate in the correct way, so therefore we cannot access the memory. And that is actually an ability that we have so that we can survive, because it helps us to go on in situations that we can't get out of. But then later on in life, it can cause problems for us. So let's just work on the neurons and ask to safely open up whatever communication that you need. And all of the responses that created the compartmentalization, any feeling or vow or agreement that you made to yourself, not to see, not to know, and everywhere you associate it with just too much pain, and pain or feeling is pain. Let's just start to give you sources truth on that. Let's revoke, recount, reclaim, rescind, renounce, denounce, because we resolve, dissolve. Transform to zero from the source point on all levels of your being, AWSIC, showing you that you have the capacity, the strength, and the ability, and healing your nervous system to expand your capacity to be able to process through what you need to process through, showing you the value on that. Because sometimes we can have parts of us that kind of just goes, no, I'm not going there. It's just too painful. But now you have tools that can help you work through it. And part of what we can fear is if I go into it, I'm going to get stuck in it. So what we're going to do is just show you the truth of what happens if you get to the other side of that, and how it is going to contribute to your life growing and changing and your capacity to receive abundance. And shift
Yes.
out all things in the way of that. Let's revoke it, we can't reclaim, we sin, renounce, denounce, cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose for choose it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. It might sound a little bit weird, but do parts of your energy believe that they have died?
That they what? Sorry.
That they have died.
Now when you say it, that resonates. It is quite possible.
Okay, so can we show them the truth and show them that they are alive? And can we revive them?
Yes,
And
please.
anywhere there is a feeling or a belief that there is safety in death, death takes away the pain. Let's revoke it, we can't reclaim, we sin, renounce, denounce, cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose for choose it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Let's shift out the powerlessness. Let's revoke, we can't reclaim, we sin, renounce, denounce, cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose for choose it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Let's remove the helplessness. Let's show those parts of you who you really are now. Show them that they are part of you, an adult person who has the capacity to protect them. That if you were in a situation like this in the now as an adult, you can do different things. You can walk away, you could call the police. So showing you that, showing them that, and showing you how to actually protect them and how to defend them, and that it is possible to do that. And you can do that without holding on to a belief that if you do not obey or comply or go along or give your father or anyone what they want, you are going to die. Let's revoke, we can't reclaim, we sin, renounce, denounce, because the result is altruist, which is it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWSIC. So another common part of that can be for some people is they learn not to have boundaries because there's a belief that no boundaries saves me.
Mhm.
So let's release that for anyone who has it. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose, which is it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. How are you doing?
I am, yeah, better and better, better and better. I had all sorts of sensations in the body, and
Okay.
like a little bit of shaking, which was, to be honest, I knew there would be some trauma. I sort of thought that I would be holding on to something from my ancestors rather than
And sometimes it can
interesting.
feel safer to look
Mm,
at that than to look at some of
mm,
these things.
true.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Okay,
so much. Yeah.
you're welcome. How's everybody doing? Okay, I'm going to do some clearing. So as much war trauma that can be cleared, let's start to clear that out. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So what is the conclusion that your ancestors came through, the main conclusion based on the war, and how does that impact you now? So all of the ways you and your ancestors learned to follow the rules of anybody, that can be another government, another country, through invasion, through communism, because if you didn't follow the rules, you may not survive. So there can be beliefs like, if I don't follow the rules, I'll go into prison. In communism, it can be, I'm not allowed to have more than everyone else. Otherwise, it's dangerous. I'll be hurt. I could be killed. So we can hold on to that. And when we hold on to that, what can manifest in our life in the now is you can't hold on to money because it feels dangerous. Let's just give you sources, perspective, and truth on those experiences, showing you the truth on what is over, what is finished. And let's bring resolution to as much of that as possible. I'm seeing some contracts were signed. So any contracts to give away your property, your land, anything else, can we just show you that it's safe for you to renounce that and that it's possible? And can we revoke, renounce, denounce, cancel, resolve, disasters, which is due from the source point on all levels of your being, AWSIC. So anything that was took where really they didn't have a right to take it. Let's just ask that source energy sorts that out and returns to you and your line what is rightfully yours, and show you that that is possible. And as many beliefs and patterns and ways of being and interacting that can be cleared, let's start to clear them. Because even if you look at that, like in communism, you're not allowed to have more than others. And then part of the way you might survive is everybody pulls things together. And then as the generations go on, that may not be the case anymore. But now you have this family dynamic where there's a communistic approach within the family. So there are beliefs like everyone has to have the same, everyone has to share. But if you do get more, you have to share. What is that going to do to your beliefs, your money? Well, it's probably going to kill your money flow, because then there's this burden on you, like I have to share it all. So what's the point? So all the ways, the beliefs are killing your money flows. Let's highlight that and start to remove that. Let's revoke, we can't reclaim, we sin, be now, denounce, because resolve, dissolve. Transform your zeta from the source point on all levels of your being, AWSIC. And when people go through those types of traumas, sometimes what they do to survive is they get cold. They numb out. That helps them to numb from the pain. So then what might happen is down the line, what you're going to find is what's passed to the next generation is you have a mother and a father, or one or the other, who can't express their emotions. They can't connect to the child. So the child doesn't have their needs met. You know, sometimes the person will take on some of the traits of the abuser. So then they can take on some of those traits. That is then passed on to the child. And then that child may have problems in relationship, inability to connect. So there's all sorts of ways that it can manifest. So let's just start to move out what can go. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So how is everybody doing? So one comment is my paternal ancestors had to flee from persecution. And that's also one thing that I saw. So all of the persecution, can we just remove all of that? Can we cancel, resolve, dissolve? Choose fortune zero from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS. Can we free you and your ancestors from torment and the patterns of being tormented, mental torment? Any other type of torment, let's revoke, we can't reclaim, we sin, we now denounce, cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose fortune zero from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS. So any torment that they went through, any pain, any suffering, any torture, that then was used as a way for them to give up their rights, their life, their money. Let's just free you from all of that. Let's start to work on the brains and start to heal the brains. And then within that, I'm seeing patterns of feeling like I'm going crazy. Let's just clear it all out. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose what you do from the source point on all levels of AWS precisely. Okay, so one other thing we talked about is, trauma, whether it's ancestral or our own. Trauma can be neglect, it can be emotional abuse, it can be poverty, it can be many different things. It blocks our ability to receive, because we learn receiving is not something positive. So what did you learn receiving is? What did you decide based on that? So all the ways that you are blocking your receiving, can we cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose what you did from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS. All expectations created from your own experience, your ancestors, your family, your bloodline, any lifetime, in regards to receiving and what it is, that is negative, which is part of the mechanism that has caused you to create energetic walls and shutters that does not allow things in, as a way to try to protect yourself from pain, but you're blocking out the suffering. The suffering, but the good stuff. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Transform zero from the source point on all levels of your being, AWSIC. When we have experiences that are repetitive, what can happen is it's not just a belief we form, but it's something that becomes part of who we think our identity is. It's not truly who we are. So where there's a lot of victimization, there can be this sense of powerlessness and helpless, and it's made up of a multitude of different belief systems and attitudes. So within that, there's part of this energy and defense of shutting down to keep out is powerlessness and the victimization underlying that. Because there doesn't seem like another alternative, but there are other alternatives. You can learn, you can resolve the traumas, and you can learn boundaries and discernment. So let's just clear out as much of that victimization that can go now. Let's cancel, dissolve, choose what you do from the first point on all levels of your being, AWS, precisely. And let's show you that you can learn another way, and all the damage that was done to your self-esteem and your confidence and your ancestors through this. Let's ask for resolution and healing. Okay, guys, I'm going to have to run because I do have a webinar in a couple of minutes. So just if you haven't let me know how you are, let me know. There was a lot that we actually talked about earlier, and I would have liked to have probably gone on for another hour, but unfortunately, I can't. So let me know quickly how you're doing. A lot is moving good. Okay. Feeling lighter, good. Okay, guys, so as I mentioned, today's call is a taster of an upcoming course that I'm running. The course is live in London this Saturday and Sunday, and it's online. And it's about replacing trauma wiring with the infrastructure of joy, abundance, calmness, and excitement. So the purpose of this is to really take out that infrastructure that has been created within you on a physical level, on a body level, and on a conscious, a subconscious, as a whole, let's say, and on a spirit level, and from your ancestors, and heal it so that we can change it. Because as I said, when we have the trauma, it wires us for fear. When we live in fear, it's very difficult to self-actualize because we're just living in survival mode. You know, it wires us for fear. It wires us for hypervigilance. It's very difficult for us to expand our life and our reality. And it wires us in such a way that we can't expand to the capacity, the level that we have the potential to do so. So what we're doing is we're looking at all of these things and all of the ways, the traumas, whatever it is, whether it's ancestral, whether it's from your own life, we're going to work on both to rewire you. We're going to be working a lot on abundance, a lot of money. There's 2 body processes, 2 hands-on body treatments that I'm going to teach you that you do on yourself that are really easy, which is going to actually pull out the perpetrator's energy from you, whether it's in the now or ancestral, because when we have had things perpetrated on us, whether it's on, you know, a family level, on a invasion, whatever it was, that perpetrator's energy gets locked into us, and it can act as a controller. It can keep us small. So we're also doing that, and we're just really disconnecting you from that. And we're going to be doing a process to clear out cellular trauma, and then we have one more process. So it's all about really rewiring you and helping you to expand. It is a facilitated course, so I'm going to share the link. So I'll be able to facilitate you on whatever is there for you. Okay, so another stone off, someone says good. Feeling lighter, good. Okay, guys, thank you very, very much. So please drink plenty of water. Stuff will keep on clearing out. We're also going to be retrieving your spiritual energy where it is trapped with any past abusers, in any other place, and Sometimes it leaves the body and it goes to different places and different dimensions. We're going to be clearing traumatic bonds, restoring your self-esteem, claiming back your power, and releasing the armor that gets built around us from abuse. So, all right, guys, if there's any questions on that, let me know. So it's Saturday and Sunday. You're welcome. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there because I have to run for the next webinar. Thank you very much for joining. Bye for now.